Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over how I got my job at Accenture. So to those who don't know, I'm currently a technology consultant at Accenture for about 2 years now, and I do Workday Financials implementations. So I went through campus recruiting, and I think that this would be a good video for those that are either college students, and even if you stick to the end, why Accenture hired me. And we're back. Just to let you guys know, you were watching part 2. If you want to watch part 1, where we discuss exactly how my entire career fair application process and round 1 went, make sure to click the video up above. My channel focuses more on professional development, personal development, consulting, lifestyle, and career discovery, as well as New York City and cats. So as you saw, like my cat just walked by. I have 2, by the way, Dawn and Sora. They told me that the second round is going to be with 2 executives. And in Accenture, executives mean like senior manager or managing director. For me, there were 2 senior managers. I had to do 1 round of case studies and 1 round behavioral interview as well. So this time it would be in the Boston office. So again, I went to Boston University, so I had to actually go to Boston office for this. And just like a little clarification that no matter what office you're going for, even if you're based at BU or whatever city that you're in, you're still going to be interviewing for any city that you want. So for me, I was actually interviewing for the New York office. I emailed the recruiter and I asked them exactly like who are the people that are interviewing me for the second round, and they sent me the names. So what I did with the names, I went on LinkedIn, I looked them up, I kind of had a sense of who they were and like what they exactly did. And this is the key point, so I'll mention this later. So for the second round prep, what I ended up doing was like, okay, I have a case study, how do I do this? I watched this YouTube channel, Case Interview. I watched a bunch of their videos. It was like a lot more management consulting kind of style. However, Accenture actually provided a booklet. They provided a booklet with some case studies, styles, and case study examples. They're not going to use them, but they're going to be very similar to it. And if you don't know, a case interview is really just a case of a situation, and you have to kind of explain and show your way through on your analysis and everything. So the key point is not the answer, it's actually how you arrive at the answer and how you did so. So your approach, your thought process, your critical thinking, this entire process is what they're thinking about. So they want to see exactly how are you asking questions, how are you telling them, how are you showing your thought process, because they can't possibly read your mind. So you need to make sure that you're very clear with your thinking and your process. So with the case interview prep, I did watch that YouTube channel. I did watch a lot of videos. I did try to do some practice case studies, but at the end of the day, I was like, I don't have any partners to do this with. So I actually talked to my strategy professor that I had at the time, talked to him, and I said like, hey, Professor Kirks, do you mind having a mock case interview with me? He did mock case interviews before for students. He is also the advisor for the consulting group at our school. I have no case interview experience, and I definitely needed this help. And thank God I did, because I didn't really, from what he told me, I had to slow down. I just kept on rambling. I made sure that I had to also take notes, and if, for example, I did ramble and I said something wrong, he says, just slow down. Just slow down. Then before you think about saying something, just think about what you're going to say first. And a lot of people don't do that. They just keep on going, and then thinking that this is fine and that they have the right answer. But again, there's no right answer. I mean, there's kind of a right answer, but the whole purpose is how exactly did you communicate it? So for me, it was really more of like, I have to slow down. I had to make sure I was breathing. So I was basically like, my eyes were darting all over the place, and I was a mess, like an absolute mess. The other thing I was trying to do was that I asked follow-up questions. You always want to ask follow-up questions, but those that actually further the conversation. For example, if it's a profit tree, you want to exercise all these options. You don't want to just ask something completely random. You can also say to the person and say like, oh, next I'm going to explore this. You want to make sure you communicate your thought process. So for example, like if we're talking about the profit tree and everything, we're talking about price and then we're talking about cost. If you're talking about cost and then you want to move over to price, you say, okay, so next I want to explore price. And as I mentioned before, this was a technology consulting case, so I did not actually have to do profit tree. From this entire process of like preparing for a case study, this was actually really helpful, because again, it's not really about preparing for the actual case. It was preparing for how you would communicate with yourself. Then the day came. So I took an Uber to the office. My interview was like at 1 p.m. I made sure to have an early lunch because I didn't want my stomach to be digesting while I was doing my interview. I made sure to arrive 30 minutes earlier. This is a little bit longer than most people would do, but for me, there was like a lobby in the building and then there was like the actual office itself. So what I did was I just sat in the lobby and I kind of meditated. I was like, never did meditation before, but I had to get this right. I had to get this right. Then I went to go sign into the security desk, and at that point, there was only 15 minutes before the interview. I signed in, I went up. The first interview was the case interview. She was doing Salesforce, and this is key because I researched herself before on LinkedIn. And the case interview was actually, like I mentioned before, a technology case study. I looked at it, I took notes, I underlined, I circled things and everything like that. So it was about this client who was trying to like consolidate their data centers and trying to use reporting. And this client is actually in higher education. So the first thing I noted was like, okay, so what I did was that this was in higher ed. So in higher ed, they do technically have like people of older generation, and generally when you do anything with tech or software, you're probably gonna have some resistance to change. So I knew that, okay, this is something to be wary of when it comes to training. This is like where a lot of people actually fail in because they think about all the technical aspects. They don't think about what happens to the client itself. So for me, it was really more of like, okay, I kind of know what's going on. So we want to consolidate all these data centers, right? So we're probably going to use something in cloud. We're just going to pick up a cloud software. I suggested Salesforce. And I did have some internship experience through Salesforce prior to this. And I knew that I had to get everything right because the person I'm talking to is also a Salesforce consultant. She's gonna know everything. She's gonna call out on my bullshit. The thing about higher education is that you're gonna have older generation resistant to change, but also higher learning curves. So you want to make sure you have training. I was actually taking notes about what I was thinking before I presented it. I asked follow-up questions, and these follow-up questions were again to kind of further down what I was thinking of. They're not like just kind of aimlessly asking questions to make sure I knew what to do. I talked to her, I told her exactly what my solution was. She was asking me questions on like, what about this? What about that? And I gave her, again, with confidence and poise and maturity and professionalism, my answers, and we closed the books in 30 minutes. The interview was supposed to be 1 hour, but the second half was supposed to be behavioral. So through this entire interview, I learned that she was also like a mother of 3 and that she actually left Accenture and then came back to Accenture. So I made sure to take notes of that, and when I wrote the thank you email, I made sure to ask exactly like what were some of the experiences that you had while you were a mother of 3 at Accenture. So the second round was another behavior interview for the full hour, and my experience was that I'm not sure if it's going to be the same for other college hires, but for me, it was specifically on what is important for you in this offer. So I said that location was key, and from the very beginning when we noted the locations that we wanted, I put New York City #1. They also confirmed it during the interview as well. In the interview itself, I asked him like what he liked about Accenture, why did he join Accenture, and he said to me something about like he likes being in all these industries, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Those were the like main questions I asked. He was also very chill, which is like makes sense because it's a Friday afternoon again. So you want to make sure that you're not always talking about work. You want to make sure that you're talking about like some fun things as well, like, oh, what are you doing for the weekend, or kind of things. Or after this entire process, I was like, whew, back in the lobby. Calmed myself down, did not call for Uber until like another 30 minutes or so. I just kind of calmed myself down, like, I just finished my final round interview. I just finished. I made sure to write my emails. After this, I also sent an email to the recruiter thanking him for all this process and organizing it, and especially recruiting from BU. That whole thing as well, he responded to me too and said that he will be sure to respond to me too. The next week, he called me, the recruiter called me and said that like, oh, we just want to confirm, is New York still your top choice? And then he hung up. So what Accenture was trying to do is that even though your main office was supposed to be Boston because you're in Boston University, they're still gonna call the actual offices in like, then on the day of Halloween, I saw a voicemail. I was actually in class, and oh my god, my palms were sweating the entire time. I could not pay attention to my class at all. Literally, I was on my phone just staring at it. Right after the class was finished, I looked at my phone. I was like, okay. I called back. He told me I got the job. he told me I got the job. At the whole time, I didn't think I would ever get Accenture. So this whole entire process was so nerve-wracking, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to explain to you guys exactly how I prepared for it, because this is like a super nerve-wracking experience. Like not even just Accenture, but any interview process. This is my experience of how exactly I got my job at Accenture. So now I'm going to explain to you why I was hired. After I signed my offer, I like got the email with the offer and everything. I signed it. I asked the recruiter, the same exact recruiter from day one, why did I get the job? So what he ended up doing was that he told me what he thought, and then he told me what the interviewers thought. He liked how well-rounded I was. What this means was that I had the business and had the tech. A lot of people who are business students, they may not have the tech. So what that means that they either don't have tech experience or they don't show any interest in tech. You always need to show some kind of interest, and this is why catering your resume is really important. And they also have tech people who don't have that business skill, because in technology consulting, in order to be a good consultant, you need to understand their business. I was a finance, management information systems, and strategy and innovation and concentration. So that, he said, was a really good mix to be in consulting, or specifically technology consulting. He also did like how well-rounded I was in terms of my experiences. So I had leadership experience, volunteer experiences, work experiences, all that kind of melded together as a good story. That I did like even outside of school, I did other things, and that's what Accenture's looking for too, is that you would be providing value to the company, not just for your work, but also the company itself. Number one is that they liked my presence in the interview. So again, confidence is key, and they told me that I had excellent presence, confident and poised. They were also impressed with my note-taking and ability to refer back to small details from our conversation to tie into other important concepts relating to potential career at Accenture. So what I was telling you about was that I took notes and that I did follow-up questions based off of it. I made sure that I actually kept everything in there. It's not just like me answering questions and then me asking questions. That was like a really big point for them, because that's exactly the kind of skill that consultants have. They also said confident in all recommendations. This is probably the answer that I got from the case interview. So no one's really gonna know exactly what the answer is. They're not gonna know exactly how to respond. But what I did was that despite everything, I was confident in my recommendations. And clients can sniff it from a mile away if you're not confident, or if you may not know the answer. So you need to make sure you're confident. This is just in general, not just even in interviews. The other thing they said, that they liked that I showed my research. So they said I had a very strong understanding of Accenture, who we are, what we do, and what we deliver to and for our clients. So this is actually a response based off of me doing all this research from like either networking or through online or through talking to people like at the career fair. Like all of this came together, and when they asked me why Accenture or what did Accenture do, that kind of thing, I answered and I gave a good response apparently. Then they also said that they liked that I had creative thinking in the case study. So I'm thinking that most probably didn't think about Salesforce, or even like maybe talking about the softer sides of like training and whatever. The day before the interview, I actually went to this networking banquet. I didn't realize this, but one of Accenture's clients was actually right next to me. So this entire time, this entire 2-hour dinner, we were talking to each other, we were networking with each other. You never know who you're gonna talk to, so you always wanna introduce yourself and be kind and talk about things. So what I ended up doing was I got her business card, and at the very end I said I'm gonna have to leave a little bit early. I do have an interview to prepare I do have to go to sleep early for tomorrow's interview. Then she asked me what company. I said Accenture. She said that she actually directly works with a team at Accenture for her own company that Accenture was doing a project on. What she did, and she actually CC'd me in this email, was she directly emailed my recruiter that she recommended me and thought I was a great pleasure to be with. So I like appreciated that so much. It was just amazing. And this is why networking always is great, because you can always you always need to make sure to be genuine, and you always want to make sure that you're building these relationships. And I did. After I got the offer, I told her. So that was my entire experience of how exactly I got my job at Accenture. Again, I did it through campus recruiting, and I wanted to share my process with you, so maybe this could help you. So for my fellow BU students out there, if you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I will help you out. You could also reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. So any other questions at all, please let me know. I recommend you to share this video out to other people who may be doing the campus recruiting process, especially at these times when There's gonna be a lot more competition, or probably gonna be a lot more anxiety with this entire job search process. So maybe like incoming seniors that were coming from the junior class are like, oh my god, I have to think of a full-time job now. And Accenture does hire in the fall for full-time, so you need to make sure to prepare for yourself. So watching this video would really help. And the internships typically come in the spring. And with that said, I hope this video was a great help for you, and I want to make sure you have a great job search experience, and I hope all these tips helped you and got a little insight of what exactly came into my interview at Accenture. So again, these things can change. I think I've even heard that there's like an assessment you need to take now, but all these things can really help you prepare for any kind of interview, not just for Accenture, regardless if it's experienced hire or entry-level hire as well. If you're interested in for more, please comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Squirrel wants you to get the job. He's so cute. One of the great things about getting a great job is that you can afford to give your cat a luxurious lifestyle. So, you know, make that bank for your kitties. Yeah!